Hey everyone, welcome back to the AI Sisterhood podcast. I am your host Arthi, and every single Saturday we sit down with the incredible women who are building, creating, and leading the world in AI. Today's guest has one of the most unexpected journeys I've come across. She left a job at AWS to sit for one of the most competitive, toughest exams in India, the UPSC. And while she was studying, ChatGPT launched and kind of changed everything for her. So she came back to AI, but not as the same person who left. And I cannot wait for you to hear why. So before I introduce her properly, let me share a fun fact about her. Are you ready for this? So she recently became a mom, and 9 months postpartum, she started creating content about AI. Not because she felt the timing was right, but because the pull was like too strong. I cannot wait to hear her whole story, her whole path as to how she kind of um, got onto this AI track and how her career has been shaped like since then. But I cannot wait to welcome Sowmya Podila to this AI Sisterhood podcast. Hey Soumya, thanks for
Hey,
agreeing to this
Arthi.
podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, other than for slight cold and minor throat issues. Thank you for asking.
Awesome, awesome, cool, cool. I hope if you need to take a break in between, you can obviously. So awesome. So you're from Minnesota, am I right?
Yes, yes, I am from, and I think you are from India, right? So I think we can see the day and night contrast here. I have all the sunshine, you're like gleaming in stars. But how are you doing overall?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I was like too excited for this conversation this whole week, so I cannot wait to like jump into the whole conversation. So yep, I think people are slowly joining in on all of these platforms. So in the meantime, why don't we get started with you? I did see like you have this spectacular journey of being in these amazing companies currently at Target. So can you walk us through like how did you go from India to US to currently like where you are right
Sure, sure. Yeah, I have started my undergraduation in India in computer science from JNTU Kakinada in Andhra Pradesh, and I worked in TCS for a couple of years, and that's where that inception to wanting to do more or come to abroad has started. I initially was working as a systems engineer, hardcore programming, completely in a technical role. But then I always had this enthusiasm to understand more about the product, the business side of things, and I was thinking about doing an MBA in India. I was preparing for the CAT examination in India. At that juncture, I have kind of met some friends who are abroad who were talking about the opportunities, the educational systems here and everything. And I kind of started looking into programs here in US. That's when I kind of started getting intrigued by various opportunities and programs here. So I applied for my masters. I did my masters here in University of Illinois in technology management. It's a combination of MBA plus also a tech component. And for that tech component, I chose data science, which was very cutting edge. Again, this is back in 2015. I might sound old, but hey, I'm thinking myself as wisdomous at this point, in my late, early 30s actually. Yeah, so I came here for my masters, did my masters from University of Illinois, and that kind of made the shift into entering data science. The data science world needed definitely someone who understands product business but also very good technically, have that machine learning background. So my program and my background kind of helped me have both of those things. So that's how I entered my data science or AIML journey around 2016. My first work experience was with Gartner. I kind of worked in HR analytics, which was quite niche to do machine learning in HR, which is very people dominant and IO psychology driven field. Post that, I worked for AWS, Amazon Web Services in their consulting wing, consulted with various clients of AWS across multiple sectors. And like you mentioned, I had to go to India to see my family during the COVID for various reasons. I was held up there, and I always wanted to pursue UPSC, United Union Public Service Commission exam. I wanted to be in more administrative roles, bring data science and AML to the government, as well as that field kind of has an impact on every other sector, and government could also use that given the population of India and the breadth of data we have at scale. So I wanted to pursue that. Like you mentioned, chat gpt and other things have happened, but I also cleared UPSC prelims, appeared for mains. There was some progress there, so I spent a couple of years pursuing that. But my it did I didn't make it to the final step, and there are age limitations to the exam, so I couldn't attempt again. And also with everything in the AI world that's been happening, especially here in the US, I kind of had that pull to come back, pursue more of AI, and I'm more optimistic now to find avenues at the intersection of AI, government, and governance to pursue the same goal from a different lane or path. Yeah, that's how I ended up back again in US, and I am now currently with Target on their Central Gen AI Advanced AI team, pursuing AI use cases for various product and business units inside Target. So that's a little bit of myself, the spiel on who, why, what. Yeah.
Wow, that that is like a very cool, not a straight path like anybody would imagine, but then a bunch of cool things that you did, bunch of cool learning from all of these different opportunities that you kind of picked up. And congratulations for clearing the prelims and the mains. Like you mentioned, if age was not the bar, I guess we could have an IAS or IPS talking to us right now. But then that's pretty cool, Soumya. Not everybody can do that. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. But slight correction, I just missed the main spice liver, didn't clear it, so I wanted to attempt again, and then the age was limit was a hurdle at that point. Yeah.
Then still it's pretty cool, awesome. So yeah, but then one question that I have is like basically you mentioned that ChatGPT kind of launched while you were studying for the exams. So what was that like? Like did you were already in the data science field, but then you kind of quit and then you moved to study UPSC, and again you mentioned that it was because you wanted to bring AI to the government of India to help the people of India. So did you ever think that maybe you could have like not done that, like any regrets? It's my question.
Regrets on not being able to pursue UPSC.
Yeah, so basically you were in AI, but then you took a break and then you moved back into AI. So
So
regrets on that, yeah.
regrets on taking a break, absolutely not. It was not easier. It was not like the simplest choice to make. It came with a lot of trade-offs, a lot of stress, pressure, of course. But always glad that I took that route, because growing up we all have different kinds of dreams, but we might all have ended up different at different career paths because of the circumstances around us, right? But it was always good back to look back at what did I want to become when I was younger, what were those dreams. And now, at least when I worked for a couple of years with AWS, I am in a slightly financially independent place where I kind of felt like I had some breathing space or the buffer to take a break, still not ruin my life completely or be dependent on anyone else for finances, but still pursue the dream that I had when I was younger. So having an opportunity itself felt like a privilege. When I was younger, I didn't have an opportunity to pause and think or take a gap year like how we see in all these English movies, Hollywood movies. So I didn't have that privilege growing up. So that opportunity itself felt like a privilege, and I really wanted to make the most of it. So the few years I've spent studying there, I kind of used to wake up at 5 and sleep at 11, and used to study for 15 to 16 productive hours. Had good opportunity to maintain my health also along the line, because the right mind, needs the right body to be, to work well. So I kind of felt that opportunity is still a privilege. And in that like, lengthy process of studying, my mind rewired unknowingly. So, when we were in IT, we were more focused on getting a job done, and we only used to pick bits and pieces that are needed to get the job done, but never kind of sat down to thoroughly study once I started working. But this switching gears to UPSC, right? I have to again go back to ninth and 10th standard textbooks, read everything from fundamentals, spend 3 to 4 hours on one small concept, studying end to end and questioning the status quo and like analyzing and debating about these things. So that whole process rewired my thinking and learning process again. And when I am back to AI, which is crazily evolving, heavily researchy, needs a lot of sit through, and you cannot exactly accept a yes by whatever you are reading online. You have to question, you have to analyze, you have to analyze the risk. How is it better? Why is it not good? So that critical thinking concept, that lever is being powered by UPSC preparation is what I feel. So for all these reasons, I have no regrets. But I wish even that path had clicked. I tried something and I slightly failed at something, that setback still lingers at my background sometimes. It would have been nice had I cracked that, had I had one more year of chance. bit still lingers in my background, but other than that, I kind of feel renewed, energized, and I kind of turned out a better person with that preparation, is what I feel.
Yeah, that's awesome, Soumya. The kind of like the inspirational answer that I expected, and you delivered it right away. Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And is this the reason that you kind of wanted to create content around AI, to kind of like get that AI to every little place across the internet for anybody who's willing to learn? So, what made you to get into this content creation space?
Sure. I always like creating something rather than just consuming. In this internet world, right? We spend hours scrolling and constantly consuming, and sometimes we kind of feel drained after the consumption. We do not feel energized or more intelligent because we consume so much, especially in the internet short format video kind of binge watching and browsing. So I always like to kind of take a pause from consumption and try to create something. I feel that enables a different lever in brain. I had like an Instagram page where and a travel blog, a WordPress blog where I was penning down my travel stories, take some pictures, write stories about them. I was doing that rather than just watching or scrolling Instagram back in the days. I always had that interest for writing, creating something. And now with AI, one since I kind of work in the thick of it, even people who are in IT adjacent to AI are not fully aware of AI and reach out to me with various questions, concerns. So wherever I go, even in an informal gathering with my friends, AI is everywhere, and that's the thing everybody talks about and reaches out to me with a lot of questions. I answer them one on one, but I kind of feel like there can be more. There is more that I can be doing, especially in simplifying AI, explaining what is what and what is not, because that fear to even learn AI or that AI will take my job is also getting into people's brain these days. So everyone either want to learn or are concerned with wrong notions. So I want to be able to help, break those kind of notions. Whoever is fearing that AI is so difficult, I don't know how to get in, I want to simplify and share resources that they can get started with their learning journey on. And also people who are in the thick of it, who had the wrong understanding of some complex concepts, or you're who are not taking up on the best practices, I also want to help them if I kind of learned them along my working journey. So yeah, to give back to community basically.
That's amazing. That's pretty cool, Samya. And with that, I have another question because you're a new mom, and then obviously you have a full time job. You're doing this content creation, and how do you do it all? Because a lot of women listening to this right now are in that exact same space. Juggling between job and then family, and then everything else that you need to constantly learn to survive in this AI space. So, how do you do it all?
Thank you for asking that. I wish I have the answer for it, but I also do not want to give that false notion of doing it all or having it all. It might seem like it from the outside, but you never know what the person is going through. How does the life look off camera? What help they might be having, especially as women who has kids. Even though now the world is getting better, definitely there are husbands and family helping as well. A lot of things naturally still fall onto the women's plate, be it house management or nurturing the kid, feeding the kid. There are a lot of things that still are on women's plate that cannot be completely taken away. So it's definitely more than a full-time job. Being a mom or being a housemaker is more than a full-time job. I would say, especially in this phase, that's what I've realized, because it's 24 by 7 on 365 days, so there is no break. So it's definitely exhausting and a quite demanding job, yet fulfilling. But that said, right, so what I am kind of trying to do these days is have my priorities right in terms of where I'm spending my energy. I have read about this, gas burner or burner theory. Basically, for example, if you have four burners on your stove, one could be friends, one could be family, one is health, and one is career. You cannot have all of them firing on full flame all the time. So, no, that would drain you or the gas very quickly, and that does not make sense. You cannot do that in the long haul. So, you have to pick and choose your burners or alternate between burners. So there are some weekends like this where I take some time to spend more on my career or other activities I'm interested in, but there are weekends I completely shut off myself and focus on the other burners that I am interested in. So that's how I'm trying to manage, and definitely asking for help and acknowledging when you can't. So those are some things I am realizing. When I was younger, I had an ambition, more energy, If I want to do something, I would have done it before I even thought it sometimes. Now I have been thinking, it's sitting on my notes, it's on my logs. I have way more ideas than what I wanted to pursue. So from my end, it's not looking like having it all or doing it all. I wanted to do 100 things, and I'm still in number two after 2 weeks of having that list of 100 things. So it's like that. But I think still I'm trying to pursue other avenues and kind of not be bogged down that, hey, I am in this new role in my life. I'm a mother. Uh, I'm not trying to be overwhelmed by it and kind of put a pause on everything, but trying to find moments where I can do one thing at a time, but not the 10 things like I wanted to. But at least I got one thing done, and I'm patting myself back and trying to take that motivation to continue. But yeah, really, I want to put this notion across that there is no having it all or doing it all. Do not believe that. Even if someone looks like it, you do not know the full story. Treat yourself and your body with grace, move gently, take time to pursue your goals, especially when you have other things going on in life as a woman. That's what I want to say to other women.
Wow, that's such a genuine and need of the hour response, Soumya, because the perfection, that's kind of like seen across social media, like, people kind of assume that, they are the ones that are lagging behind. But like you rightly put, that everybody is going through their own struggles, and not everyone has everything figured it out. So yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that. And I also like recently saw one of your posts where you hosted the She Builds by Lovable on International Women's Day along with Jenna, if I'm not wrong. So, how was it? Like, do you often host such events? Was it your first time? Can you let in a little bit about it?
Sure, sure. Thank you for asking that. I did not co-host, but was there as like one of the people who are more technical, who can build, who can evangelize, build it out with the women in AI community here. But I have hosted the Generative AI Summit in DC. Like I emceed the event. There is a formal organization called AI Accelerator Institute that is hosting it. I emceed the day, basically coordinated the speakers, engaged the Q&As, led the day basically. uh, like I said, when I started putting myself out there, be it through little podcasts or doing that one more step of proactive outreach, saying that, hey, I'm available if you guys need any help, or if you guys need more speakers who cancel out last time, I'm available. Doing that little outreach kind of took me a long way and got me a lot of opportunities. uh, I kind of used to use LinkedIn definitely for job opportunities. That got me most of my job opportunities, but I never kind of put out more content on LinkedIn, took it more seriously other than for interviewing and networking. I did not create content on LinkedIn before. I was doing it slightly on Instagram, but I kind of felt it is a game changer. A lot of technical and professional people are out there on LinkedIn. When I started putting myself out there in a minuscule format, just writing something, sharing a view, putting a little bit of effort to do that, got me good recognition and pulled me in various ways that I would not have imagined otherwise. So yeah, that led me to all of these incredible women connections, opportunities, and I'm loving connecting with the community and hearing how people are using AI, how they're concerned about AI, what is that they would like to know about AI, especially from women hearing that firsthand. I have so many ideas that I have jotted down that could help the community at scale. I'm still working on some initiatives, so more to come in the next few weeks on LinkedIn on that.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm kind of excited as to what you're working on right now. Awesome. So more on the content journey side. All right. So like when you're creating content, who do you imagine is on the other side? Like who is your typical audience? Is it like freshers or like those who are trying to get into AI or those who are already in it? So who are your audience that you're aiming for?
Like I said, I'm still new to content creation on LinkedIn and I'm figuring out that piece. But from what I have observed so far, people are across the spectrum. Like you mentioned about your audience, there are a lot of women who are in career breaks, just only seeing AI from the sidelines, to people who are in the thick of it asking what's next, what's the future. So LinkedIn has a breadth of audience, right? And my followers so far, I think close to 3,900ish people, also range from fresh grads to VPs and startup co-founders, and researchers. So I have people across the spectrum. And what I am thinking to do in terms of creating content is that when I'm talking about something, at least start with simplifying it, because you never know who is reading it on the other side, right? If someone knows it, they might still feel like this is good simple explanation, I know it. Or someone who don't knows it, oh, this is what it is, okay, glad to read that. So I want to kind of cover both the spectrums of the people. So start something with the basic, give that non-technical analogy for someone who is not at all familiar with the concept to understand that, and then dive more into details. That is what I'm trying to do. And I'm also working on, like, again, I might be spilling some tea here a little too soon, but I'm working on a couple of content creation series, and these are also geared in the same direction. For example, I have one called AI Simplified that's geared towards non-technical audience. That'll take a very simple concept like what does it mean when we say pre-training or fine-tuning an LLM, and it'll explain for someone who's not at all technical, who does not know anything about LLM, in a very simplified way. I have that AI Simplified series, and then a AI in-depth series or AI decoded series that's more for practitioners who's building, who's in the thick of it, who is questioning what if we change the hyperparameters, what if we try some other framework, for those kinds of people. And also AI in research, where I'll be talking about one research paper at a time that's more state of the art, cutting edge, for someone who's looking over the horizon to kind of figuring out what next. So AI simplified, in depth, and research. So these are the three buckets basically I'm targeting, and maybe an AI use case kind of segment as well later on, to kind of, I understand something, but where do I implement? How do I? What are the learnings from someone who have already implemented it? So that is how I have bucketed and creating series on my content to target various audience across the spectrum in AI journey.
That's pretty cool. So, based on everything that you just mentioned, can I say that simplifying AI is kind of like your superpower, like turning complex stuff into something that people can easily relate and understand to? That is your superpower, right?
Superpower or not, that's a big word to claim, but that's something I'm trying to accomplish. And if I could accomplish that, that definitely would be my superpower.
Awesome, awesome. That's amazing, Samya. Especially, I think now when a lot of things are coming in AI. Today I saw a post by Greg Eisenberg. So it said that it was a simple image where it mentioned everything that went on in the last 1 week. So many people are talking about Claude, obviously, and then OpenClaw, NVIDIA's NemoClaw. So it was all a simple picture with just these keywords, and it was like, hey, you're not far behind. It's just like everything is happening so fast and so many things are happening. That's it. So in times like these, I think people like you are like uh, really essential to kind of simplify stuff for people who are like overwhelmed with what to know, where to know it from. So I think you are doing a pretty good job, and I think you mentioned there are a lot more things that are coming up. So I'm pretty stoked about all of those. Thanks for doing it. So and I thought, why can't we like put your simplification process to test? Like, get that. We know that we can find your content, upcoming content or previously shared content on LinkedIn and other platforms. But how good it'll be to kind of like hear it live from you. So I know AI is like people use the word, sorry, the two letters AI like a million times each day. But then how do you kind of simplify something like as complex as AI? So, how would you define AI? Let's assume that somebody is like listening to this specific artificial intelligence, the term for the very first time. So, how would you explain AI to them?
Sure. Thank you for asking that. So I have never done this live. I'll try my best. I always believe that a word speaks for itself, or it should actually say, right? So when we say artificial and then intelligence, so what does it actually mean? Let's take the literal words and try to break them down. First, the first component is intelligence, right? So human beings are considered as the most intelligent species, and when we say intelligence, it kind of boils down, at least in my view, to being able to think and analyze and make a judgment. So I see those are the three important buckets of intelligence: think, analyze, and judgment. And also a little bit of creativity, human taste. There is an angle of that is kind of sprinkled across all these elements, and human emotion. So those are sprinkled, underlying elements across these three buckets. How can we give this kind of, these capabilities or traits that human have to machines, basically? So I feel like that is the broader angle of what we mean by artificial intelligence. And when we say artificial, it's not naturally occurring, and when it's not naturally occurring, it's in a format of machines. How can we give a computer or a physical human looking like a bot, how can we give them this kind of thinking, analyzing, making a judgment while using some kinds of emotions, creativity, judgment, taste. So how can they arrive at that judgment and sound intelligent like humans, or aid or assist, or maybe eventually replace human intelligence? So I feel like that is the broader field that itself. And when coming down to now the current technology of large language models, which has been mostly labeled as AI, right? So I feel like AI, or even they are now using the word AGI, artificial general intelligence, because the field AI itself started as a very vague, huge umbrella term. So something as capable as a human, as intelligent as a human is the word, but now we are calling LLMs as AI. Are they that AI? Actually, not. They're not, they're not fully yet there to the level of human intelligence. So now they're calling that broader concept as artificial general intelligence. When we say that, maybe there is a humanoid robot who exactly talks and behaves and does all the physical and also, thinking things like a human being. So that full spectrum of human physical plus mental intelligence is what we are calling it as artificial general intelligence, AGI. And the simpler word AI is now used synonymous with the large language model technology we have today. Yeah, that's how I would start by simplifying AI. I can also talk about how LLMs work in a simple way, but I want to pause there to see, if you have any questions, maybe we can also quickly chime in to see if audience has any questions, and or what they would like to hear simplified, and I can help with that.
Yeah, that was beautifully put, Samya. Like, uh, as simple as something like AI, but many of us truly do not understand what it means. Like, I think the whole concept of AI was kind of, it became a huge hype after ChatGPT was launched. As you rightly mentioned, it was like even before ChatGPT, I think since 1950s. But since it was like commoditized and every layperson kind of got access to all of these large language models, when AI truly began to kind of interest people, even people who like my mom, who has like very recently started to learn computers and stuff. So yeah, I guess that was a beautiful explanation given. And speaking of any questions from the audience, I kind of don't see any questions, but then you kind of received a compliment that, how you juggle stuff. So I'm not sure I can spell the name correctly. It's like the YouTube handle, but then the compliment is basically that's such a great advice on how to juggle so many things. So they practically give you a huge kudos. And thanks for dropping that comment. Remy Nandi, I'm not sure what your real name is, but thank you so much for doing that.
I think
And
I
there,
might have even know her. So yeah, thank you, Rimi, for showing up and always encouraging and asking the right questions.
oh, that's awesome. One of your friends or peers or awesome.
I've known her from other podcasts on LinkedIn, so I think she joined my last podcast too. So
That's pretty cool. Thanks so much, Remy. Okay. Anyways, yeah, you were mentioning that LLMs are currently a huge thing right now, and people are associating LLMs with AI. And the other thing, which is like going on around since I think 2024, and like towards the end of 2024, is AI agents, right? So many AI agents, like recently fully autonomous, OpenClaw to the security governance agent for OpenClaw, the Nemo Claw. So there are like so many things. So for somebody who's kind of like trying to get started to understand AI agents, or to kind of build their own AI agent, so how do you advise them to kind of get started? Where do they begin?
sure. There are infinite resources out there to learn, so it's kind of hard to pick and choose. I will share the thing that I have personally used. Again, it might not be the best thing out there, but in that best thing out, in figuring out the best thing out there, it'll be like, let's watch a movie together, and you keep searching for the right movie for 1 2 hours, and your energy is up and you don't even watch a movie, you go to sleep. So it's like that, finding the best resources out there on AI these days. But something that works, something that help you get started, I'll suggest a couple of resources in that direction. The first one I have used personally is called deeplearning.ai. It's by Andrew Neck. He's the co-founder of Coursera. He he's the one who kind of started teaching education, especially on AI ML online, and co-founded Coursera, and that's where I started diving deeper into machine learning. His, his mastering in machine learning course, I think, is like a fundamental book for everyone, fundamental course for everyone who have started machine learning a decade ago or so. He's now having this his own website called deeplearning.ai. It has a lot of courses for someone who doesn't even understand anything to even someone who's building in the thick of it. So he has a spectrum of courses, and for especially women who have left less time to kind of upskill, he has a lot of short courses, so that'll even take you like 45 minutes or even 1 hour, so just half a day to complete something and build something of your own. So that kind of short courses he has a ton specifically on AI agents. There are various frameworks out there, like you mentioned, build AI agents, and for example, there might be build a simple AI agent with LangGraph, which is one of the leading frameworks. That could be a course you could take in under half a day and build a simpler AI agent to start with. They have notebooks embedded in that you can see the code, you can modify the code or clone the notebook and start experimenting on your own if you're comfortable with code. So that definitely has a lot of great resources. That said, if you're slightly technical, I always recommend to go and open the documentation and blogs of these official providers, be it Anthropic, Google, LangGraph. These are leading frameworks, or even OpenClaw documentation. There might be 100 people, 1,000 people trying to simplify it, build demos, build workshops and all of that, but everyone has to again learn from the official documentation. Or that's the inception source, right? Whoever has created those frameworks, those approaches, they have documentation along with walkthrough examples, blogs and demos. If you're slightly technical, you have the patience, you can understand and read through things on your own, definitely those are the second. Before you go to any other person who has built a course, taken off it, try to go through that. That might give you at least a high level overview or basic concepts. But if you want to, so if you might end up with a lot of questions, I read through this, I didn't understand this fully, I have a question, I don't know how to build, then take some course from these deeplearning.ai or any other providers out there who are providing these courses. So at least you know what is the ground source of truth from their official documentation. When someone kind of says something that might not completely resonate with you, can all always where to go back to confirm, because with everything that's changing so fast and everyone even trying to content create content or courses so fast, sometimes they could use AI to even build those courses, and there is a room for error. So always go back to official sources as a ground source of truth is what I would refer for anyone starting their AI learning journey.
That's the last part is like very important, and I cannot like stress enough on it, because yeah, as you rightly mentioned, it's like very easy for anybody to create course or like create write a blog post or write a LinkedIn post or whatever. But yeah, like understanding the ground truth of it, going back to the source, yeah, that's really important. Thank you so much for mentioning that, Samya. And like again, speaking of AI agents, so what is like one thing that people kind of get wrong about when they're trying to understand about AI agents?
Mhm. Again, this I have heard from a wide variety of spectrum of people. Some are technical, some are non-technical, and especially who are non-technical, they are getting confused by various names that are seeing out there. For example, there are tools, no-code tools that also help you build an automation or an agent. For example, N8N, Make.com, Notion. There are these various tools that you can use to build like an agentic pipeline or an automation pipeline. And there are these LangGraph, Microsoft AutoGen or semantic frameworks that help you build actual AI agents where you have to code. So people who are less technical are getting confused by, when I said I have built an agent, do you build it in N8N? No, I actually build using code and build the back end of such systems for target. Maybe the front end visual interface could something look like an agent. For no code builders at target, we have something called agent builder inside that looks like this drag and drop, you build an agent kind of thing. But who builds those things? I kind of work and build those kind of things. So yeah, people are getting confused about this code based, actual building systems, LangGraph kind of frameworks versus more low code, no code agent builder kind of things. um, for someone who is not comfortable with coding, who want to more do automation for your own personal use cases where, hey, I want to track all my emails or track all my calendar and give me like a starter note for the day. I want to integrate these pieces to, Anthropic or a Gemini model, and then let it connect to these Gmail, my Google Drive, my calendar sources, and give me a, starting note for the day. So those kind of integrations can be done with those kind of no code N8N kind of agent or automation pipelines that you can build out there. But who wants to build more AI as an AI scientist or AI engineer for a startup or a enterprise company? These LangGraph, Microsoft and Google's AI frameworks, those kinds of frameworks would help you build more enterprise grade agentic pipelines, basically.
Mhm. Wow, cool. That's really informative, Soumya. So basically, there are a lot of non-tech people who are into building AI agents right now, and as you rightly mentioned, they can kind of make use of all of these no-code tools. But those who are technical and who want to kind of build truly, end-to-end agents that works according to how they want, how they want it to be engineered. I think, yeah, coding it from scratch would be the right way to do it. Thanks so much for clearing that up. Okay, so we've spoke about a lot about AI agents, and so on. And you did mention that you are currently obsessed with Claude. So can you shed a light into how you use Claude basically? Because anywhere we go on LinkedIn, it's Claude this, Claude that. I built this skill for Claude, and so on. So, but how do you use Claude?
Sure. Yeah, what I am using Claude is more for, researching whatever I am trying to learn on and staying up to date, and also finding gaps in that research so that I can take those problems. And I also work on research papers on my own and along also with my company. So to mostly do that research papers, read or summarize or understand research papers and find that gaps, that is one primary use case I use it for. I also use Notebook LLM for this, but Claude actually help me also convert that into more presentations or blog posts or other artifacts that I can also use. Again, I use this as a starting point to just get the content out there or the crumbs out there, so that there is a format, there is a structure, there is a header, so that I do not have to spend more time on that. But also I will definitely work on filling that up. That said, I am these days, like I mentioned, I am moving into a lot of other areas and opportunities like speaking or attending conferences, and I also want to know what exactly is going on out there, right? So I have set up like different projects inside that. For example, I want to that in that project I want Claude to scout opportunities for me on a daily basis. What conferences are upcoming, what are their deadlines, what are their call for presentations, what is the link associated with that, what are the eligibility requirements for it. So, instead of me kind of Googling and opening 10 websites and coming out with all this information, I have set up a couple of projects, one for conferences, more of researchy, one for conference and speaker opportunities, one for any other good seminars going out there and events or meetups or gatherings that I would like to be part of and network with other people. I have set up different projects inside Claude for that. As of now, I still do not see the option to let it automatically scout and get back me for results. But every morning I can go in and say, hey, get me my daily spiel, and it go does its thing. And to generate the set of instructions for that, even I use Claude. I say, hey, this is my goal. I want to understand this and this from this conference. I also use voice mode to kind of transcribe when I have more longer thoughts instead of typing, and say, now convert this into an instructions.md file that I can attach to a project. So even you use Claude to refine your own thoughts into generating more structured instructions for Claude projects, and then attach it to the project. So the project now has a lot of background information. Sometimes I also attach my resume and my profile and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. When you're finding some eligibility for me, whether I would be eligible or not. So explore what is eligible for me out there to apply, or what would be a right next fit for me, and bring those opportunities. So for these kind of mundane tasks to scout the web and bring you back something, I kind of felt Claude is incredibly helpful. And more than, I use more of OpenAI models for language refinement. I want to say something more politely, something more formally, something more informally. I want to add sense of humor to this basically and deliver it in a very light-hearted tone. So for those kind of language refinements, I use OpenAI and ChatGPT a lot of time. For understanding technical things like research, going through a code repo, generating a technical presentation or a blog for that starting point. Claude, I feel like excels in understanding technical aspects. I feel like talking to a coworker sometimes when I talk to Claude, but again, it does a lot of mistakes. Sometimes so does my coworkers or peers. There is that. And I use Gemini models for mostly multi-model creation, creating an image or creating a video or understanding those, aspects. If I want to understand a video, Gemini excels in that multi-model understanding. Yeah, in love with Claude, but this is how I use the three bigger family of AI models out there.
Uh, thanks so much for sharing your whole, suite of AI agents, if I can say, sorry, AI models that you use, mostly for everything. That kind of paints a clear picture because I understand that relying on a single large language model, like ChatGPT or Gemini, may not work now because a lot of different models have like their own individual advantages, like you rightly mentioned. So I mean, we do have to pay individual subscriptions for all of these, but then I guess it's kind of worth it. I guess. So thank you so much for putting that clear picture out there as to giving out the importances of each of these different models. Soumya, that's splendid. So now I want to
Um,
kind of like dig it. Oh,
if you have a
sorry.
minute, they're curious, Arti, on how you would like to use, how you are using AI models, maybe which one you use the most. I think our audience would also be interested to know that.
Sure. If there are any recurring audience out here, I regularly talk about all of these things in my AI radio show. But then, yes, for somebody who's new over here and for yourself as well. So, I use a couple of different models, like you mentioned. So, my primary is Claude. So, I do all of my ideation. I have different projects for different aspects of it. So, I have this cohort that I run for training people on how to use AI in their regular job. This is for essentially people who don't work in the AI space, let's say who are in marketing, sales, or even doctors and nurse. So I run this cohort for them to kind of like where they can identify that AI opportunity. So in fact, like I have the workshop tomorrow. For anybody interested, the link is all over. So basically, I have like different projects created for all of these purposes. So I also have like different scheduled tasks, which kind of gives me the scoop of like what's going on in AI. Like every day around 8 a.m., I get this scheduled task that runs and gathers all the information for me that's like happened in AI and gives me a summary of it. So that's Claude. Also, like I use Claude for other purposes, like if I want to kind of build uh, very small product to demo somewhere, that I do. And I recently started creating carousels using Claude, like for LinkedIn and Instagram. It has a unique skill. Claude has a skill that you can make use of and then use it. And I'm yet to explore remotion in Claude to kind of create videos in itself using
Mhm.
within Claude itself. So I've spoke a lot about Claude, but then ChatGPT, since that's the very first AI model that I've used, like all of us use, so it knows a lot about me. So if I wanted to like understand or like verify something that I kind of like validate the idea that I have, is it like am I on the right path? Because it knows about my vision, my goals, because like since 2022 I've been talking to it, right? So
It has your
uh,
data basically and your profile, yeah.
yeah, basically. So that's when I go to ChatGPT. And I kind of think like Gemini, the Nano Banana 2, or Google's Flow for video. So this is what I use for like creating something quick, like generating flow charts or something like that. But uh, ideally, the main model that I kind of use is like Claude Core, to be specific.
Mm.
So yeah, thanks for asking me that.
Yeah, glad to hear. Like I said, I am also looking to understand how other people are using it, so good to know that.
Awesome. There is this person called Sabrina Ramanav. I don't know if you follow her. So she kind of posts about all of these things. Like she's a huge YouTuber. I think she has around 1 million plus followers across
Mm.
all platforms. So she posts all cool stuff that you can do with all of these different models. So
Yeah,
check
sure, I
out
will
it.
check it out.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So we spoke a lot about AI agents, what tools Soumya uses and all. So now it's time for like kind of hearing about, your life lessons, couple of like oops moments that you might have, the messy middle, if you know what I mean. So you did mention that, in a previous interaction that you regret not focusing on research and publishing like when you were younger. Is that something that you regret? Can you walk us more about it?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Uh, Out of my master's, right? So, like everyone, I was very excited to start working, earn money, be independent, and then to travel, to buy all the cool things or new clothes. That's what I spent my early 20s on. No regrets as such, but there is that I had all the time, I had all the energy, basically more than now. And I should have done more with that, is the feeling I now get in retrospect, especially post my master's in that early career journey. I got into AWS, I got into Gartner. So I think I was more, I kind of made myself content that I had those big names on my resume, and I was more content with that, or thinking that I have made it. But I have realized that's only the starting point. Just getting a big name on your resume does not mean anything unless you do the work that lives up to that company's standards, or even actually takes that company to the next level. That's when you become more valuable for the company, and also that company name will actually be a value addition to your resume when you do that level of work that you're expected from that kind of names. Basically, I've done good work, but again, not focused as much on the research direction of it. I was more in the use case side of it and working more on that. But now, as the transition more into AI, I kind of feel like maybe I might have missed out on some of those publications or working towards that, because now in AI, it's more researchy. I mean, as much as there is a use case work, the frontiers of AI are ever getting pushed forward, and there is so much that's getting unfolded and researched and built from the ground. And there are only questions on the table than answers at this point in AI. And you need that research mindset and that perspective, and to even get into it, right? Sometimes you need some work experience to even get a job. It's like the chicken and egg problem. Even to get into research or push the barriers further or work with right people in the research, they expect you to have done some body of work. And especially when you're in your mid career with 10 years under your belt, people will start looking, where are your publications, where are your open source contributions. Those questions now are coming back to the table, specifically more than before. Previously, people thought you don't need to pursue a PhD to be in computer science. You just do the work, and your work experience is more matters more than research, was the mindset there. At least in India, I was there at one point when I came out of my undergrad. I appeared for even PhD entrance examination after my undergrad, but I didn't pursue that direction, and now I kind of feel like I've missed out on that boat. And for everyone out there who is still under 30s, who is still younger, who's still not married or into motherhood, there are less responsibilities on your plate and you have a lot more energy. So I am really want to emphasize that use that energy to pursue things of your passion. That be research or working on some things or any other things even outside of work, whatever your passions are. I really want women to, take the time and use all their energy and to work on those passions and hobbies and build something for yourself. So be passionate, be hungry, go out there and pursue those things, because especially for women in the late 30s, when there are other things like homemaking or kids, if you're on those pursuits, those will also consume a lot of time. And that's when you might also get ambitious. Once I had the baby, I kind of want to give a better world for her. How I want to figure out AI and give a pathway for what she should be learning, what she should be figuring out, and that ambition is also driving some of these things. So when you're in your late 30s, you might be more driven to pursue or achieve or be in a better place in life overall, and that ambition might not have enough fuel in your body and mind to achieve it. So when you're younger, pursue whatever you want to pursue and give it your 100% is what I want to say out. So those are my oops and learnings, and oh, I should have done that when I was earlier kind of feeling, basically.
Wow, that was beautiful, Samya. I think that's a very good advice for anybody who is, in their early stages of career, early 20s, as you mentioned. So yeah, that's amazing because only when you kind of like, move past that age, when you are like with a lot of responsibilities and stuff, you kind of like regret or sometimes you cannot go back, right? So it's very essential, like Samya mentioned, to kind of realize it early on. So yeah, that's amazing, fantastic. Thanks for saying that. We do have like one question from Rini though. It was based on our ChatGPT Claude conversation. So, do you think sticking with ChatGPT Premium is worth it, considering that Claude Premium offers so many things and better in many aspects? How do you think ChatGPT is better than Claude?
Like I mentioned, it again depends on the use case. Even OpenAI now has Codex, and if premium comes with that subscription, so even that is quite capable. But somehow, as like a earlier adopter of like coding with Claude and using Claude for technical presentations, maybe I might be biased here that I feel like Claude is slightly technically superior than ChatGPT. So if you are more focused on technical work streams like coding or technical presentations or research paper or research ideation, I definitely kind of lean towards Claude. But again, ChatGPT for every other activity out there, like she mentioned, it is kind of good at understanding your profile, your preferences, your vision, your activity across sessions. Even Claude is getting there in terms of that memory component now. But I think ChatGPT underlying has been doing that memory component for some time. So for anything general, critiquing your work, like she suggested, that for overall language refinement critiquing kind of works, I still lean to ChatGPT. So it depends on what your use case is and what's the price range you are comfortable with. I don't know, especially from where you are, what kind of cost differences might be out there. But again, pick your use case, get your hands dirty with both of them, and for your specific use case and your profile, you pick, which one is getting your taste and judgment also right. Taste is the word I have seen a lot of people use now, and they kind of feel Claude models has better taste. But again, if ChatGPT kind of seems like to get your taste better, then that's your pick, right? So for your tasks at hand, experiment both of them before signing up for broader, more premium subscriptions, and then pick and choose accordingly.
Mhm. Wow, that's good advice. And I think this question might also kind of stem from the whole quit GPT movement that's been going on, right? So I think that's also from the moral and ethical standpoint. Many people are kind of like ending their ChatGPT subscriptions and then voluntarily moving to Claude. I think Claude is like ranked number one on US App Store. So I think that aspect is also there, I guess. But yeah, like how I mentioned, it's mostly personal preference, and yeah, I think yeah, I guess you have answered Rini's question. Just thank you, and that's very true. It depends on the individual needs. Awesome. Thanks for answering that, Soumya.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you gave this amazing advice that people need to kind of get started with doing something impactful as to figure out what they want early in their life. But what is the best career advice that you have ever received, and if possible, from whom you have received it?
Wow. I didn't think through this before. Uh, it came in various formats. It's not one piece of advice at one point of time. I kind of always look back to my first manager who actually hired me out of college here in US. So he had a startup within Gartner, and he hired me as the first data scientist, basically onto the team right from college. He got hundreds of resumes onto this table. I don't know what made him pick my resume, so I kind of asked that question on what made you pick my resume after the of all the piles of resumes you received after like 6 months to 1 year. When I got comfortable with him to ask that question, so he mentioned about some technologies out there, but he said, yeah, that might only have led me to pick the resume because I've mentioned a specific language called Perl, and he was using or comfortable in that language. But then he said, when I spoke to you, basically you understood the product vision, and I kind of spoke to a lot of people, and most of the people didn't even get what I was trying to say. I thought I was a bad communicator, but then he was a very technical person, so he kind of thought, I'm very geeky, technical, maybe not explaining it well, but he said I understood that right, and he suggests that's one advice he gave me, that you bring a balance of that right product understanding along with some technical understanding, and that's a rare thing to have. You should definitely work more on it, polish it, and maybe keep pursuing opportunities in the direction of good mix of both of them. I did not realize that I was doing that. I mean, I wanted to learn product. I did my MBA kind of program, but I kind of wanted to go more into like product management roles because I did my MBA, but he said that never lose that technical angle as well, because that's what makes you different. And it's rare to have both of them together. So I always kind of had at the back pocket of mine. At various junctures, I kind of got different job opportunities or calls that are leaning in one direction more than the other. And I always kind of keep coming back to that advice that I should try to do both of them together. I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not, but somehow that advice always stuck out in my mind that, hey, I have both of these skills and I should put to use both of these skills together and do something at the intersection of them, was always my kind of goal given the advice he gave him. That said, recently one of my colleagues who is a woman gave this, I would not say advice, but I would kind of say a reality check, and that kind of helped me grounded basically. So postpartum, I reached out to her. She also works at Target. She's a principal data scientist on my team. Um, I kind of reached out to her to set up a connection to work on a research paper idea and collaboration. She kind of just give me 1 second. I have something that's bothering my eye. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, she said that if you don't mind, why don't we use this time to just connect personally? If you don't mind, and this was during my office hours. I said, "Oh yeah, why not? Absolutely." And she started checking back on how I am doing, because this is like almost I took 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks of my maternity leave, and I had to join back immediately because the leave components here in US are not as long as in India, 6 months or so. So I only joined after 10 weeks, and then I started working so much. And one more month after I reached out to her for this research paper collaboration, she kind of started asking on how am I recovering, how am I feeding my baby, how am I doing other things. If I am comfortable talking about it, she wanted to touch base and discuss other things. And then she started saying, I really wanted to ask these things. I did not get the time or opportunity for us to personally connect and do. But I also want to give this advice saying that don't spread yourself out too thin. That's one thing she said. I'm just being blunt and honest here. I do not want to discourage. I know you're a woman of great ambition. You always pursue things. I kind of keep hearing your name in many projects, and you're a new mom. You might think that, hey, I don't want to I take a backseat because I'm a woman, or I do not want to be put in multiple projects because when you might feel shy that I do not want to get any favor there or any less work for me because I am just coming out from my postpartum. I don't want to have that, but I really want to, be there out there with everyone on the table and keep working, was the mindset I had. She said, that is good, but don't spread yourself too thin. Don't sign up for so many projects. Say no, or pick and choose a project that might ring your name at 10 places rather than being in 10 projects so that your name could ring in 10 places. Pick one that and give good work or good quality work there, and that one project should be heard in 10 places rather than you being in 10 places. I know your ambition. I appreciate that, and I do not want to discourage you by any means, but in this postpartum phase, that health comes first, and whenever spreading yourself too thin, you might not give quality output to any of those things as well. So that's one advice she kind of gave me. I mean, previously I was passionate. I signed up for 10 things and I delivered 10 things. Now that was the exact 1 month after joining back is when I was realizing too that, oh, I signed up for 10 things and I only did maybe 8 things maybe, and maybe 2 things I delivered, but that might not be my absolute best. So I started realizing that, and that shaped me in reprioritizing my work, choosing my work wisely, saying no to projects that might not be the best fit for me, or where I might not be able to deliver my best given I have other things going on. So, pick wisely and deliver your best was the mantra I'm trying to incorporate these days, especially at that advice coming from women who had kids, who has higher up in the ladder, who is more technically confident and does so many things, kind of, grounded me that, hey, maybe if someone at that place who have done all these things and done it all is saying that, there might be some truth to that, and I should reevaluate my priorities and how I choose my work or where I put my gas or energy to. Yeah, I kind of feel like a lot of women could use that. Like you said, there is that illusion of having it all or doing it all, and having to sign up more kind of comes with everything we see online. But I think this kind of reality advice was really helpful for me.
Wow, that's too kind of supportive. I mean, I'm so glad that you have somebody who can kind of give you such powerful advice when it's needed, because As you rightly mentioned, somebody like I think all women kind of go through this right after they come back from their maternity leave as to do they belong there anymore? Will they be not given opportunity just because they have a kid? I mean, believe it or not, many people might not even acknowledge or accept it, but it happens, right? Like the kind of a bias that happens in the workplace, it does happen. But I think because of that, a lot of women go through a lot of stress because being a new mom, that in itself is a new job, as you already mentioned, and then kind of like going back to your current job and trying to prove multiple times than what you did before, that kind of like comes subconsciously. But I honestly, I appreciate your colleague who kind of gave you the right advice at the right time, and I wish that every woman out there has this kind of a supportive women again over there. And that is like kind of the main purpose of this AI sisterhood podcast, for like women supporting women out there, because honestly no one else can understand what every woman kind of goes through than another woman. So thank you so much for telling the whole audience as to what advice you got from that particular person. And I don't know if she's like listening to this right now, or if I can like kind of get in touch with her for future podcast episode. That would be really good as well if she's
Yeah,
interested.
yeah, definitely. I'll definitely share her contact with you. I think when we share this on LinkedIn, I would like to give her that shout out for being that person, especially at workplace, right? Like you said, women supporting women at workplace. And at workplace, the only, I mean, most of the workplaces give this advice on do more. That's the expectation from workplace, right? Or hey, go beyond expectations. Fulfilling expectations is average. You should be beyond expectations. Doing your job is normal. You should go above and beyond or out of the box your job. This is the workplace culture in general. And someone coming to me, who kind of is higher up in the technical ladder and giving this advice, real advice, and giving me that space to kind of grow in my role along while navigating my personal life. I think that was great company culture to have as well. And I kind of wish to be and she also mentioned that there was no women like this who kind of told me all these things when I was going through that journey. So I would like to be that person for someone. And now I want to take that forward and be that women who supports, especially in workplace, for other women or even men in that sense, because everyone goes through a lot in personal life. Motherhood is one thing, personal loss is, there could be a lot of things, right? So be that supportive person to both men and women and workplace, and bring that culture, especially in this overwhelming AI world, that human first, supporting collaborative culture. I think that is need of the hour for everyone, especially juggling AI and the pace of its evolution.
That's fantastic, Samya. I'm truly really glad that you have somebody like that in your current workplace. So so happy for you. Awesome. Oh, I think we are
With time.
at the 1 hour mark. So if it's okay, like one couple of final questions to you to before we wrap this all up. So you already mentioned a lot of amazing career advice for somebody who's like starting with AI. Is there for the women in our community who are, kind of wondering if AI is even for them, because there is this statistic which is kind of like very alarming that only 22% of women are currently pursuing AI. So a lot of them are like, AI is not for me. I'm from a completely non-technical background. So how do I even kind of get into it? And they're reluctant to kind of get into it. So for those of them, what kind of advice would you like to give?
Hmm. Yeah, I think even I have seen some stats. Definitely, that's not a great number to look at, especially when women are, there are even groups like STEM that was kind of advocating for women at one point, and now if we kind of miss, as a community, miss this AI evolution, it might be even a bigger setback. And I feel like this AI evolution is also a clean slate sometimes, because you can this is so new and no one knows anything, and that kind of level sets the battlefield for everyone. And it's a great opportunity for women to now use this opportunity to catch up and be on the same level with your peers, especially when we have been set back by other aspects. So definitely use that opportunity is what I would say. And there is no right person or right job now to use AI. it is kind of taking everywhere. Every role, every sector, every domain has at least some components or tasks that are redundant, automated, potential have the potential to automate and can leverage AI. So find that in your current work streams, no matter where you are. It doesn't matter the role, what level of tech impact. AI even can be used for creative tasks, right? Like you mentioned, Instagram carousels, image creation, video creation. And on a personal note, you can ask it to even meal prep ideas for you, or even organize your home, figure out what your baby's food recipes can be, whatever you're going through, right? Or even help your parents with something, basically, to understand them, learn how to use WhatsApp or something. Even I spend some time with that. So whatever is the use case, AI can be leveraged, even on your personal life and work. So that helps you be more productive, take some things off your plate so that you have some breathing room to even rest, rejuvenate, or even pursue your passion. So try to use AI wherever you are, however you can, be more productive and use that energy for your betterment overall. So that's the advice I would like to give. And find avenues, at least take 30 minutes of your time to read through what's happening around you in AI, so that at least you are AI literate, even though not fluent. Have that foundational awareness of the things moving around you so that you do not feel lost in this ocean now. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you. Thank you so much, Soumya. Thanks for that wonderful advice. And like you rightly mentioned, that AI literacy is something that's very, very required right now. Even if they do not like kind of apply it in their existing roles, I think they should. But you know, if it takes time, but being AI literate to understand what is AI generated image or AI generated video, there are a lot of scams going on using AI as well. So I guess that's a really powerful statement from you. But yeah, but before we close, like I obviously will link your. I've already linked your LinkedIn profile in the description. But is there some other place like where people can find you and kind of like go through your content?
On Instagram too, at indiegirl.ai. Indiegirl.ai. I can also share that so that you can link it. I'm also working on my Substack that will have more interview guidance, more technical articles on understanding or implementing AI more in your organizations. More to come on that. So I think that will definitely be shared on LinkedIn once I start putting more content out there. LinkedIn will definitely be my primary platform, but once you follow that, you might see the other content that might be stemming soon.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Soumya. This has been kind of like such a real and kind of a generous conversation from your end. And thank you so much for bringing your whole self into this, like your the AI scientist part, the creator part, the new mom part, all of it. This community is like, I'm so lucky to have someone like you contributing to the AI space who's like trying to empower women each day. So thank you so much for like joining me on this podcast today. And I hope like people who are like tuned in right now and those who are going to be listening to it later on, they would get such good a lot of insightful information from this whole conversation. So thank you once again for tuning in. And yeah, do you have any final questions or something that you would like to share before we close out?
No, but thank you so much for having me on this. I love the name AI Sisterhood podcast, and trying to bring AI to more women. Kudos to you on those efforts, and thank you for spotting me and bringing me here. These are some things I have not spoken before. I've only had updated LinkedIn with my job experiences, all those technical things, but never kind of put myself out there on speaking all these things and personal learnings or navigating career as a woman. I am glad I am able to share these on a forum, and if this at least resonates with few other women, that would bring me a lot of joy. So yeah, I am honored to be here, and thanks for saying all the nice and kind words about me. I'm grateful for this opportunity, Arti, really. And you are doing a great work, so I really wish you the best on this AI Sisterhood podcast and also the overall AI. Collective efforts by Arti and all of those ventures as well. Wish you the best. And thanks for everyone who has joined live and who will be watching later too.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Samya. It's been a pleasure having you on this podcast. And hey, everyone, thanks for tuning in. I guess we'll meet you next week with yet another new, amazing, fascinating guest out there. So until then, keep learning, keep building, and just do it. So bye for now.